how they went from a simple idea to a global giant.
I like it.
We've got articles and YouTube videos, the whole 9 yards.
All right.
You ready to unpack how they did it?
Absolutely.
I am too.
It's a fascinating case study.
Yeah.
Especially for aspiring entrepreneurs.
Right.
Uber's story is all about identifying a common pain point,
Okay.
offering a user-friendly solution, and then navigating the complexities of scaling rapidly
Right.
in a constantly evolving market.
Yeah, and it all started with a little bit of frustration
Ah.
and a dash of Hollywood inspiration,
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, tell me about this.
Garrett Camp, one of Uber's co-founders,
Right.
was in Paris
Oh,
and
no.
couldn't find a cab.
Oh, I've been there.
It's supposed to be romantic and effortless,
Right.
but he was stranded.
Oh, no.
Then he remembered that scene from Casino Royale where James Bond tracks a car using his phone,
Uh-huh.
and boom,
I see it.
the seed for Uber was planted.
So he envisioned a seamless on-demand car service,
Exactly.
all controlled through a simple phone app.
Yes,
Talk about bringing a touch of Bond to everyday life.
exactly.
I love
But here's the thing.
Okay.
Travis Kalanick, Uber's other co-founder,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't initially sold on the idea.
Really?
He needed a little more convincing.
I can understand that.
So-
What convinced him?
Well, it turns out a rude Parisian cab driver
Oh, wow.
sealed the deal.
Really?
Imagine that.
Wow.
A negative customer experience
Yeah.
sparking a revolution in the transportation industry.
It's amazing how a moment of frustration can lead to such a monumental shift.
Yeah.
But they had the idea. They had to build it.
Right.
Where do they even begin?
Well, they started small,
Okay.
which is a great lesson in itself.
Okay.
The very first version of Uber
Hmm.
relied on simple SMS messages. Riders texted their location,
Yeah.
and the system connected them with the nearest driver.
Interesting.
No fancy GPS,
Wow.
no frills,
Oh.
just pure functionality.
So they bootstrapped it
Yeah.
with basic technology.
Uh-huh.
It's incredible to think that something as ubiquitous as Uber
Right.
started with such humble beginnings.
It goes to show that you don't need all the bells and whistles right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Sometimes a simple solution that addresses a core need is all it takes to get started.
So true.
Yeah,
But of course, they didn't stick with SMS for long.
right.
What happened?
They quickly realized the limitations
Okay.
and upgraded to a GPS-enabled system for version 2
Okay.
that brought the James Bond-style tracking to life and
Yeah.
really started to capture people's imaginations.
I bet.
Yeah,
So it was around this time
Yeah.
that they had to make some critical decisions
absolutely.
about their business model, right?
Yes.
Specifically whether to own the cars or not.
That was a pivotal moment.
Yep.
Garrett Camp was all about the luxury experience.
Okay.
He envisioned a fleet of sleek black cars
Wow.
and even considered leasing an entire parking lot full of Mercedes. He was really set on this image.
That's quite a vision.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how their initial idea shaped the direction of the company.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, Travis Kalanick had a different idea.
He did.
What did he want to do?
He pushed for what we now call the no inventory model,
Okay.
meaning drivers would use their own cars.
Interesting.
This proved to be a game changer for a few reasons.
Yeah, I could see how that would make them incredibly scalable.
Exact.
No need to invest in a massive fleet of vehicles.
It also drastically reduced their overhead
Okay.
and gave them a significant competitive advantage.
Yeah.
Especially in those early days.
Right. But it wasn't just about cost savings, was it?
You're right.
The no inventory model had much broader implications, right?
It essentially laid the groundwork for the gig economy as we know it today. And with that came a whole new set of regulatory challenges
Mhm.
and societal debates
Mm-hmm.
about worker classification labor rights
Right.
and the responsibilities of companies like Uber.
So this seemingly simple decision
Yeah.
had ripple effects that extended far beyond Uber itself.
It did.
It really shaped the future of work in many ways.
And it's a good reminder for entrepreneurs that even seemingly straightforward choices can have far-reaching consequences,
Right.
both positive and negative.
Okay, so they had a brilliant idea,
Mm-hmm.
a user-friendly app,
Right.
and a disruptive business model.
Yeah.
They were on their way to changing the transportation landscape.
Yeah.
But as we know, no success story is without its challenges.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the first hurdles Uber faced?
Well, one of the biggest challenges came from the existing taxi industry,
Right.
which understandably
Mhm.
wasn't thrilled about this new competitor on the block.
Yeah, this wasn't just a business.
Exactly.
It was a disruption of an entire industry.
And that disruption led to protests, legal battles, and a lot of pushback from established players who felt threatened by Uber's rapid rise.
Did these challenges ever threaten to derail Uber's growth?
They certainly caused friction and forced Uber to adapt. For example, Uber's entry into London faced massive opposition from the iconic black cab drivers.
I can imagine.
This clash highlighted the tension between innovation and existing regulations, forcing cities and governments to rethink how they approach ride-hailing services.
So it wasn't just about building a great product.
Right.
It was also about navigating a complex web of regulations and stakeholder interests.
Absolutely.
And this is a key takeaway for entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Disrupting an industry often means facing resistance from established players and grappling with outdated regulatory frameworks.
Yeah.
It sounds like Uber's early journey was as much about navigating legal and political hurdles as it was about developing technology and building a brand.
That's a great way to put it.
Really is.
And it's something that any entrepreneur looking to disrupt an industry needs to be prepared for.
Right.
The road to success is rarely smooth.
And speaking of bumps in the road, there's another big challenge that emerged around this time. The whole employee versus contractor debate.
Right.
This wasn't just an Uber issue either, right?
Exactly.
It became a defining challenge for the entire gig economy.
It raised fundamental questions about worker rights benefits and the responsibilities of companies operating in this new landscape.
Yeah.
And these debates are still ongoing today.
Right.
With significant implications for businesses like Uber and the millions of people who work through these platforms.
So on the one hand, you have this incredibly innovative and disruptive company.
Right.
And on the other hand, you have these complex ethical and legal challenges that are still being wrestled with today.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating and multifaceted story.
It truly is. And it highlights the fact that success in the modern business world isn't just about profits and growth.
Right.
It's also about navigating ethical considerations and societal impacts.
Okay, so we've talked about the spark of inspiration, the early challenges, and the rise of the gig economy.
Okay.
What happened next?
Well, let's just say Uber's journey didn't get any less eventful.
Okay.
In fact, they faced a few more hurdles along the way, some internal, some external.
Okay.
But despite those setbacks,
Yeah.
they also continued to innovate and expand their reach.
It sounds like there's a lot more to unpack here.
There is.
So for all you aspiring entrepreneurs out there,
Yeah.
stick with us as we delve deeper into Uber's story.
Okay.
We'll uncover how they dealt with those hurdles,
Yeah.
how they diversified their offerings,
Right.
and what lessons we can all learn from their successes and missteps.
You okay?
What do you say we take a quick break and come back to explore the next chapter of their journey?
All right, let's do it.
I'm excited to hear more.
Me too. As Uber's growth just skyrocketed, they encountered more than just external pressures from regulators and competitors. They also had to grapple with some internal challenges that really tested their company culture and leadership.
You're talking about those allegations of a toxic work environment?
Yes.
And the data breaches, right?
They were.
Those were some pretty dark chapters in Uber's story.
And those controversies really tarnished their image and raised serious questions about their values and priorities. It became a case study in how rapid growth and a move fast and break things mentality could backfire.
It seems like a classic example of how prioritizing growth above everything else can create blind spots when it comes to company culture and ethical considerations.
Exactly.
And in Uber's case, it ultimately led to a leadership shakeup.
It did.
Travis Kalanick, the CEO, who had been so instrumental in the company's rise, stepped down amidst the controversies.
Yes.
That must have been a pivotal moment for Uber.
Yeah, it was a major turning point.
It's not easy for a company to change its course so dramatically.
Right.
Especially after achieving such phenomenal success.
Bringing in Dara Khosrowshahi as the new CEO signaled a shift in priorities.
Okay.
He came in with a reputation for building a more inclusive and ethical culture at his previous company, Expedia.
So it was a deliberate move to address those cultural concerns head on and rebuild trust with employees, riders, and the public.
Absolutely.
And while it wasn't an overnight fix, Khosrowshahi's leadership did mark a new chapter for Uber.
It did.
They started implementing new policies, investing in diversity and inclusion initiatives, and taking steps to improve driver relations. So they acknowledged their mistakes and took concrete steps to course correct.
They did.
It's a good reminder that even the most successful companies can stumble, but it's how they respond to those challenges that truly defines them.
I completely agree.
Now, amidst all this internal turmoil, Uber also continued to push forward with its expansion and diversification efforts.
They did.
Right, they weren't just focused on ride-hailing anymore.
Right.
They started branching out into other areas.
Yes.
Like food delivery with Uber Eats.
Exactly.
Uber Eats became a huge success story in its own right.
It did.
Tapping into the growing demand for convenient food delivery options.
Absolutely.
It also helped Uber diversify its revenue streams and reach a wider customer base.
Yeah, it was a classic example of identifying a new market opportunity and leveraging existing infrastructure and technology to capitalize on it.
And they didn't stop there.
Nope.
Uber also ventured into freight transport, connecting shippers with truck drivers, and even dipped their toes into the world of autonomous driving technology.
They did.
Wow. Talk about ambitious. It seems like they were constantly pushing the boundaries and exploring new frontiers.
They were.
And while not all of those ventures have been equally successful, it speaks to their willingness to experiment, innovate, and adapt to a changing market.
Absolutely.
So even as they were dealing with internal challenges and ethical debates, they never lost sight of their entrepreneurial spirit and drive to grow.
Precisely.
And despite all of the ups and downs, Uber eventually reached a major milestone in 2019.
Okay.
They went public.
That was a huge moment for them.
It kind of solidified their status as a major player in the tech world.
It did.
The IPO was a significant achievement, even though the stock market debut wasn't as smooth as they might have hoped.
Right.
Yeah. I remember there was a lot of hype leading up to it.
There was.
And then the stock price didn't initially perform as well as some expected.
Yeah, it was a reminder that even the most successful companies are subject to the whims of the stock market and investor sentiment.
But the IPO itself was still a symbol of how far Uber had come since those early days of texting for rides.
It was a testament to their vision, their resilience, and their ability to disrupt an entire industry.
Okay, so they went public, they expanded their offerings, they navigated some pretty serious controversies.
They did.
What about their financial performance?
Yeah.
Did all of this turmoil impact their bottom line?
It definitely had an impact.
How so?
Uber was notorious for burning through cash in its early years, prioritizing growth over profitability.
That seems to be a common theme with a lot of tech startups.
Really?
It's spend big to grow fast and worry about profits later.
Exactly.
And for a while, that strategy worked for Uber.
It did.
They attracted billions of dollars in investment and achieved rapid global expansion.
Right.
But eventually, investors started to demand a path to profitability.
Of course.
And were they able to deliver?
Well, it took some time and some strategic adjustments. But in 2023, after years of reported losses, Uber finally achieved operating profitability.
That's impressive.
It is.
It shows that they were able to turn things around and build a sustainable business model.
Yeah.
What were some of the key factors that contributed to that turnaround?
A few things play a role.
Okay.
They focused on streamlining operations, improving efficiency, and cutting costs where possible.
Okay.
They also benefited from the continued growth of Uber Eats, which became a major revenue generator.
Yeah.
And perhaps most importantly, they doubled down on their core ride-hailing business, refining their pricing models, and optimizing their platform to improve driver earnings and rider satisfaction.
So it was a combination of strategic cost-cutting diversification and a renewed focus on their core competency that helped them reach profitability.
Exactly.
That's a valuable lesson for entrepreneurs.
It is.
Sustainable success requires a balance between growth innovation and financial discipline.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From humble beginnings to global domination, from controversies to financial success.
Right.
Uber's story has it all.
It does.
But what does it all mean for our listeners?
That's a great question.
Those aspiring entrepreneurs who are eager to learn from the best.
I think there are a ton of valuable takeaways from Uber's journey that can be applied to any entrepreneurial endeavor.
Well, let's dive into those lessons then.
Okay.
What are some of the key insights that our listeners can glean from Uber's experience?
First and foremost, I think Uber's story highlights the importance of identifying a real problem worth solving.
Okay.
They didn't invent ride-sharing or food delivery.
Right.
But they saw a way to make it significantly better, more convenient, and more accessible.
So it's not always about coming up with a completely new idea,
right,
but rather finding a way to improve an existing solution or address a pain point in a more effective way.
Exactly. And once you've identified that problem, execution is everything. Uber's success is also a testament to their relentless focus on user experience.
Okay.
Their app is intuitive, easy to use, and provides a seamless experience for both riders and drivers.
It's a great reminder that even the most groundbreaking idea is worthless if you can't deliver a user-friendly product or service.
Absolutely.
And let's not forget, they're marketing savvy.
Right.
They become a household name through a combination of clever branding, strategic partnerships, and a bit of controversy.
Yeah.
Which, let's be honest, sometimes generates more buzz than anything else.
It does.
So building a successful business isn't just about the product or service.
Right.
It's also about building a brand that resonates with your target audience and creating a buzz that gets people talking.
Exactly. It's not.
Uber's early success relied on finding the right partners and building a strong team.
That's right.
So surround yourself with talented people who share your vision and can help you bring it to life.
Precisely.
And be prepared to adapt as you go.
Yes.
Uber has constantly iterated on its business model, expanding into new markets and adding new services.
Yeah.
They haven't been afraid to experiment and pivot when necessary.
Exactly.
And all while dealing with those regulatory and ethical challenges we discussed.
And it's a reminder that entrepreneurship is a marathon, not a sprint.
So true.
There will be hurdles and setbacks, but with the right mindset and approach, you can overcome them.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges, controversies, and the eventual path to profitability.
Yeah.
Where do you think Uber goes from here?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
They're clearly in a strong position financially, but there are still challenges ahead.
Right.
Well, the regulatory landscape is still evolving,
oui.
And the employee versus contractor debate is far from settled.
Right.
Plus, they're facing fierce competition in all of their markets.
Yeah.
Companies like Lyft are nipping at their heels in ride-hailing, and the food delivery space is becoming increasingly crowded.
And let's not forget the rising cost of, well, everything.
Right.
That's got to be impacting their bottom line.
Fuel costs, inflation, supply chain disruptions.
Right.
These are all factors that Uber, like any other business, has to contend with.
So what's their strategy for navigating these challenges? What are they doing to stay ahead of the curve?
For one, they're investing heavily in autonomous driving technology.
Interesting.
They see self-driving cars as the future of transportation.
Okay.
And they want to be at the forefront of that revolution.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It could potentially solve a lot of their current challenges, like driver shortages and labor costs.
Exactly.
But it's a long game, and there are still a lot of technical and regulatory hurdles to overcome before self-driving cars become mainstream.
That's true.
In the meantime, they're also expanding into new markets.
Yeah.
And looking for ways to leverage their massive user base.
Right.
They're exploring opportunities in areas like healthcare, logistics, and even financial services.
They want to become a one-stop shop
for
all kinds of on-demand services.
So the next chapter of Uber's story is still being written.
It is.
And it'll be fascinating to see where their journey takes them next.
Absolutely.
They've already changed the way we think about transportation and the gig economy.
Yeah.
What will they disrupt next?
I guess we'll have to wait and see.
I guess so.
But in the meantime, we can learn a lot from their successes and their missteps.
Absolutely. Uber's story is a reminder that entrepreneurship is a risky, but ultimately rewarding endeavor.
It is.
And it's a story that's still unfolding with plenty of twists and turns ahead. Okay, that wraps up our deep dive into the rise of Uber.
Great.
We've explored the company's origins, their meteoric rise, the controversies they faced, and the lessons we can all learn from their journey.
Yes.
And hopefully it's inspired our listeners to think big, embrace innovation, and maybe even disrupt an industry or two themselves.
Right. We're all about empowering aspiring entrepreneurs with real-world insights and actionable takeaways.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to hear from you.
All right.
What stood out to you from Uber's story? What lessons resonated with you the most?
Yeah.
Head over to our YouTube channel.
Okay.
And share your thoughts in the comments.
I look forward to reading them.
And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell.
Yes.
So you don't miss any of our future deep dives.
That's right.
We're here to help you shape that entrepreneurial mindset.
Absolutely.
And equip you with the knowledge and inspiration you need to build something amazing.
Yeah, we're all about empowering aspiring entrepreneurs.
With real-world insights and actionable takeaways.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Uber,
okay,
let's distill some of those key takeaways for our listeners.
All right.
What are the big lessons that aspiring entrepreneurs can learn from Uber's journey?
Well, one of the most important lessons, I think, is that even in established industries, there's always room for disruption.
Yeah.
Uber didn't invent ride-sharing or food delivery.
Right.
But they found a way to do it better, to offer a more convenient and user-friendly experience.
So it's not always about coming up with a completely novel idea,
right,
but rather finding a way to improve an existing solution or address a pain point in a more effective way.
Precisely. And they weren't afraid to challenge the status quo, to shake things up and create something new, even if it meant facing resistance from established players.
That takes guts, doesn't it?
It does.
To go up against the giants and disrupt an entire industry.
But Uber's story shows that it's possible.
Yeah. And it's a reminder that sometimes the biggest risk is not taking any risks at all.
Another thing that really struck me about Uber's journey was their adaptability. They weren't afraid to pivot, to experiment, and to adjust their course along the way.
That's a crucial quality for any entrepreneur.
Yeah.
The business landscape is constantly changing, and the ability to adapt and evolve is essential for survival, let alone success.
And it's not just about adapting to external factors, like market trends or competition. It's also about learning from your mistakes.
Yes.
Acknowledging your shortcomings, and making course corrections when necessary.
Absolutely. Uber had its share of controversies and missteps.
Yeah.
But they also showed a willingness to learn from those experiences and make changes to improve their company culture, their policies, and their impact on the world.
It's a reminder that even the most successful companies aren't perfect.
That's true.
And that the journey to success is often paved with both triumphs and setbacks.
It's all part of the process. And the key is to embrace those challenges, to learn from them, and to emerge stronger and wiser on the other side.
So for all of you aspiring entrepreneurs out there, remember this.
Yeah.
Building a successful business isn't just about having a great idea or a disruptive product. It's about execution, adaptability, perseverance.
Yes.
And a willingness to learn and grow along the way.
And it's about building something that you're proud of.
Yeah.
Something that creates value for your customers, your employees, and the world around you.
That's a great note to end on.
I think so too.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Uber.
My pleasure.
We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
I hope so.
And who knows, maybe one of our listeners will be the next Uber.
Oh, sure too.
The next disruptor, the next game changer.
That's right.
We're excited to see what you create.
Me too.